Good evening, and thank you for your attendance of the March 20th, 2024 regular Board of Commissioners meeting. I am Vice Chair Jonathan Craddock in the absence of Chairman Dr. Althea Riddick, who is excused this evening. She is attending the 2024 Rural Summit. I have present here tonight Commissioner Emily Truman, Commissioner Linda Hoffler, Commissioner Brian Roundtree, County Manager Scott Sauer, County Attorney Pitt Godwin, and Clerk to the Board, Jolitha Chestnut. At this time, Commissioner Brian Roundtree will open us in prayer and lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag this evening.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you, Lord, for today, the assembling of county officials, Lord, to govern Gates County. We ask you for wisdom, Lord, as we conduct business this evening. Lord, we thank you, Lord, for the different things that you have done for Gates County, ranging from wastewater, ranging from broadband, housing, improving different capacities in different departments and appropriations. And we thank you for all the departments. We ask you, Lord, to give us direction as we conduct business. Let us do everything for the betterment of all of our citizens. We give you thanks, we give you praise. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Commissioners, there will be an agenda adjustment. First, requesting Sheriff Ray Campbell to provide a brief update on the situation from last week on Highway 13 that has received significant media attention. I would like to insert this item as 3B following the introduction of our new DSS employee. And there will also be an adjustment. There will be a closed session for legal and personnel. I would like to insert this item as 7B following Commissioners' updates. So action requested is a motion to approve the agenda adjustments.
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes have it. All right, action requested, motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Ayes have it. All right, action requested, motion to approve consent agenda.
Vice Chair, I motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. All right, we're down to the new hire, DSS Director Willis Smith.
All right. Great evening to the thousands in attendance and the millions watching at home. For those who do not know who I am the Gates County Department of Social Services Director, Mr. Willie R. Smith III. I have the pleasure today of introducing to you our newest social worker. I'm happy to say that makes us fully staffed in that unit, which has been a long time coming since I've been in this office, Ms. Tiara Harrison. Proud to say she is a native of Gates County, graduated Gates County High School in 2014, and graduated from East Carolina University in 2019 with her bachelor's degree in social work. She comes here from Chowan County with about 3 years of social work experience in their CPS unit, and she's come on to assist our APS unit as an adult protective services social worker. So I want to give her a happy and handy welcome. The team has been overly pleased with her performance so far, and she's been here, and again, I cannot stress to you the the blessing we have of having a fully staffed social work unit. Mr. Sauer can attest to that from our interactions trying to get this stuff situated. And again, I'll give Ms. Harrison a quick opportunity to introduce herself.
Good afternoon. I'm Tiara Harrison. It's truly a pleasure being here tonight, and I am truly grateful for the opportunity and look forward to serving the citizens of Gates County.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you. All right, at this time, I will call Mr. Sheriff Ray Campbell to the podium, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I guess everybody wants to know a little bit about what happened last Monday afternoon. Started out as a shots fired call, and whenever that call comes out like that, we're always a little bit leery. So I had one deputy at the courthouse, one under arrest, so I only had one deputy to answer the call. So anyway, make a long story short, it went south very quick. So another deputy arrived, then a state trooper arrived, and then it was full-blown, hands-on, fighting for their life. So when you have an individual that reaches out and grabs your weapon, which he grabbed an AR-15 rifle, had he have been able to break that rifle loose, somebody would have died. Probably more than one person would have died. And it was only by the grace of God that didn't happen. So it turned into a barricade situation. Thank the Lord, I've never had that happen in this county before. But amazing help from our surrounding counties, Hertford County, Hosky PD, amazing bunch of guys. And I told somebody out there, I said, I'm in charge. I got like 20 law enforcement officers out here, and there's blue lights and guns everywhere. And I look around, and I'm the oldest guy there. I'm the oldest guy there. So anyway, I scratch my head and think about that a lot. But anyway, it turned out well. Everybody did the job. The guys were absolutely amazing. This individual was not going to give up, was not. He ended up being dragged out from under our house. He was not going to give up. So got him out, took care of business, and everybody went home safe, and he went to jail. So you guys did a good job.
Well, filling in for Chair tonight, I would like to say thank you for everything.
Well, like I say, the guys did an amazing job. They showed amazing restraint, and they stood there with me. I left the scene approximately 1:30 in the morning, and I had a Hosky PD officer that would not leave me there by myself. So he stayed with me until we got a search warrant to come and search, do what we needed to do. So amazing job from our friends.
So thank you to your team. Thank you to all the surrounding counties that helped. That's what small counties have to do. We had to pull together and help.
Yep.
We don't have the resources. Our E911 pulled through for us. I mean, it was just amazing. And this is on a national level.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say a whole lot about it, but Governor Roy Cooper spoke about it, and it's amazing what they're trying to do for these small counties and trying to help our law enforcement.
That's it. Again, I'm glad it worked out and everybody went home, because it could have been a tragedy for us.
Yep.
So,
Good.
anyway, and like I say, when I'm on scene, and I have other sheriffs from other counties calling me, hey man, what you need? So, well, simply picking up the phone and giving somebody a call, we get all the help we need. So, anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chef Campbell.
Okay. Ms. Chestnut, do we have anyone signed up for public comments? No public comments at this time? Okay. Moving to old business. There's two parts to the old business. A is Summit Design and Engineering Presentation of Public Participation Summary of Merchants Commerce Center by Ms. Ann Darby.
Good evening.
Welcome, Ms. Darby.
Thank you.
There's two parts to your presentation. So at the end of your first part, I want to make sure we separate
Okay,
the public participation and then the presentation of the background.
okay, I have put them in one
That's fine.
PowerPoint, and I will
Okay.
just,
Okay, well, I will
note
rephrase
that
that.
we've
I'll
moved
do A and B, Summit Design, Engineering Presentation of Emergence Commerce Center, background and recommendations by Ms. Ann Darby as well.
wonderful. Thank you, Vice Chairman Craddock and members of the Board of Commissioners. Thank you for having me. My name is Ann Darby. I'm the Planning Department Manager for Summit Design and Engineering. And I'm going to, yeah, I'm ready. I am going to, as the Vice Chairman said, I'm going to give an overview of the public participation process that we ran for the county regarding Merchants Commerce Center. And then I'm going to talk about some background that we looked into and recommendations for moving forward. I think everyone in this room is probably familiar with this site plan, which the county hired our architecture and landscape architecture departments to create. This has been, it's my understanding that as it went out, that there was some concern in the public, so we were called in to do a public participation process. That started out with a survey, an online survey. We had 515 survey responses, and I think, as I think I've said before in this room, that's a very high number. That's a very high percentage of survey responses. You have a very tuned in and attentive community that really cares about Gates County. So that's very positive because I work with localities all over and it's hard to get people to participate. So that in and of itself is a positive. Again, 515, there were responses, there were 14 questions on them. And as you can see from the slide, there were flyers around with a QR code to the survey that were posted in public buildings, at the library, at the post office, to make sure that people were aware of it. It was available on both online through the QR code. You could take it on your phone very easily, and it was available via paper. We got a lot of paper responses, and then we combined them and actually put them into our SurveyMonkey account so that all of them came out as one body of results, regardless of whether they were filled in on paper or online. In the beginning of the process, there was concern about representation and the demographics of the county. We wanted to make sure from the very beginning that we were not hearing from one group of people or over another, that we were hearing across the board from people all over Gates County. And so the reason these slides, you don't need to look that closely if you don't want to, but we looked at age, we looked at race, we looked at income, we looked at parts of the county, of the different districts in the county, to make sure that, and the pie charts here you see are the way that we tracked the survey respondents and the county demographics overall. So for the most part, they really match up pretty well in terms of age and race. There were slightly, and this is very true of every survey, an older demographic has a larger slice of the pie. That's common in surveys across the board. It wasn't very skewed, but for the most part, the demographics of the people who took the survey coordinate with the demographics of the people in the county, and that was our goal. So I can say confidently that we heard from a wide slice of the population. Another thing we did was we had a tabling event at the Gates County Rodeo. This is one of my colleagues who went to the rodeo, and there was another colleague there actually who took the photo. Talked to people, got surveys, answered questions, talked about the site plan. We then held 2 focus groups, public open house or focus group discussions. They were at the library. We had them at 2 different times, midday and evening on April 27th. About 30 people showed up to each session, and they were very active discussions about concerns, interests, questions. They were some of the most active community conversations that I've been in, and I do this for a living all the time. So again, you have a very engaged population. So from all of those together, from the survey, from the focus groups, community conversations, and from talking to people at the rodeo, there's the 4 really key takeaways. One, were concerns about the cost of the project and the reality of making it happen. We heard that over and over, that really residents of Gates County want to make sure that public money is being spent in a responsible way, and wanted to make sure that as the county embarks further on the project, that it's really going to be able to become a reality. Protecting the rural lifestyle that Gates County residents enjoy, that is not actually something that we specifically asked about, it just kept coming up. So people in Gates County love Gates County. They love it the way it is, not wholly, they want some things to change, but that came really strongly, that people are very proud of Gates County and where they live and the rural quality of the lifestyle. The need for a grocery store came up over and over again. And I know that we'll talk more about that in subsequent slides, but that was part of the site plan. And that's something that people were very excited about, especially in the open-ended comment questions or comment sections. And then additional housing options. And that, on the slide, I'm not saying anything about it because it was a very starkly divided response. And I'll talk more about the two sides of that response. In terms of worrying about the cost and the reality of the project, we had questions about where funding would be coming from, whether or not it would raise property values, whether or not there's sufficient infrastructure or where the money would come from for infrastructure, and then concerns about the reality of a grocery store in this site. So the rural lifestyle, again, already said that, but just we got that really strongly and really clearly that people are proud of Gates County for that reason. We heard a lot about grocery stores, and I'm going to go ahead and delve into this. It's in the recommendations as well, but I think it deserves its own slide. And I did a lot of research on this. Just a little bit of background about me too is I'm an urban planner, a community planner, but I have a background in food systems planning and food access. So this is not something that I have just come to fresh without any background information. I hate to stand here and say something that nobody wants to hear, but the sparse demographic, or the population, the way that Gates County is developed, the population and the income mean that the site that we're talking about is not going to fit a traditional grocery store pro forma. And that is something that I knew from my experience, but made sure to vet very, very clearly. We reached out to the North Carolina, I'm not saying this to depress you, we have solutions and suggestions. But so we reached out to the North Carolina Retail Merchants Association. They reached out to Food Lion, to Piggly Wiggly, and to a couple of other grocery stores that generally locate in rural areas. And that suspicion was confirmed that it's not going to meet the pro forma. That said, there are many communities, including some that I work with, that are finding alternative grocery store models and ways to bring healthy food into rural food deserts, into areas where residents need and want food. We had many survey responses we asked people where they shop. So we heard about driving to Suffolk, driving to Ahoskie, driving or shopping at the Dollar General and not getting what people are looking for. It's a big concern of residents, as you all know. So the recommendation from this report, my recommendation, our company's recommendation, is to explore alternative models for grocery stores. There are co-op models. There is the photo you see on the left here is a grocery store that is run by the Salvation Army. The photo you see on the bottom right, the top right is just from a co-op. But the bottom right is actually Surrey County, Virginia is working on an alternative model grocery store. They're just about to open it. It's been a coordination between the county, finding grant funds, working with a private property owner, and their economic development team. And they have figured out a way to make it happen. It's just not the traditional grocery store pro forma, because they're looking at rooftops and income and loss, and that's just the way they do business. But do not lose heart. I really think that it is possible to have healthy food, fresh food, grocery options in this site. It's just not going to look exactly like, it's not going to be a Food Lion, it's not going to be a Kroger. So I'm happy to talk more about that at any time if people want to. I've connected your staff with Surrey County staff, and Surrey County is willing to discuss their process and give a tour. And so that is the beginning, not the end of the grocery conversation, it is the beginning of a great and creative conversation that can bring many community partners in. So I want to make that clear, though, that we did research, that didn't come out of nowhere. We took this very seriously. We reached out to a lot of partners, but that's the recommendation, is to explore alternative models. So for housing, we heard a lot about housing. We heard a lot, and this is, again, in the focus groups and in the survey, we heard a lot that there aren't enough places to live in Gates County. We heard about people having to leave the county or not live near their job because they can't afford or they can't find a place to live. As you all know, Gates County has a majority, probably 2/3 of single-family homes, and they're on large lots. That tends to make them less and less affordable. You all know that we have a national housing affordability crisis, and that's the same in Gates County. Lack of housing is an issue in Gates County as well as across the United States. There was a lot of concern about multifamily housing bringing crime. That I am happy, I've shared a lot of resources with staff. I've done more research just to make sure I'm not telling you the wrong thing. But there are no studies that correlate multifamily housing and crime. When we talk about affordable housing, it doesn't necessarily mean concentrated, subsidized housing. It means a place where a new teacher that is coming to the high school can afford to live. It means we all need affordable housing at this point. So we can talk more about that if you want, or I'll move to the next slide, but I'm available to talk more. So then I did a lot of research. I looked back, I read meeting minutes from past Board of Commissioners meetings. I read newspaper articles. I talked to staff. We obviously heard things from people in the county. I read county files. Staff shared all of the files that they have kept over the years from staff person to staff person. I've read grant applications. And in general, the timeline is this. So the county has been working on this site for a long time. In 2008, the former property owner requested and was granted rezoning from agricultural to commercial and multifamily. In 2010, that preliminary plat was approved by the county. And then that was summer 2010. Fall of 2010, the county, in support of that, applied for a grant from the US EDA for the infrastructure for the site. And then the final plat was approved in 2011. Then in 2013, the plat at Merchants Commerce was rezoned from R1 to C1. And in 2022, another grant for infrastructure was approved. That's a very basic timeline. If anyone's interested, I have a very complex 4-page Word document timeline. But in general, the takeaway is the county's been working on this for a long time. A lot of energy has been put into it thus far. So we then studied existing conditions as we would for any other planning project, just to make sure we were understanding the site correctly. And that included property status, the wastewater capacity. I talked to county staff about wastewater capacity, about the process of that. We researched housing stats in the county to make sure, again, we weren't just relying on anecdotal information. We looked at the census and at Esri's business analyst. We, again, as I said, did more in-depth research into grocery stores, their location decisions, their pro formas, and then as well a little bit about additional commercial in terms of what proposed uses on the site would match with the wastewater and water capacity. And then, of course, we looked, as planners, we looked at your comprehensive plan to make sure that this was in alignment with the comp plan. That is the end of one presentation and the beginning of another. Okay, so for the recommendations, I've divided it really into recommendations, but overarching and this is something we do in planning processes, is boil it down to big ideas, right? So number one, develop incrementally and intentionally. So I think a lot of the concern about, hey, this site plan isn't just gonna come out of nowhere. Well, of course, most site plans, I talk to developers all the time, they don't come out of nowhere. It makes sense to start start with an anchor, start with a business owner that is, and I understand that there are some business owners that are interested in moving there, support that and move on. Starting with housing is a really good way to start adding the rooftops, and by rooftops I mean potential customers for businesses that would then locate. Because in order to change that, the grocery store, when I say pro forma, I just mean the spreadsheets that they create to look at whether or not their business is going to work. And they're always going to look at potential customers. So if you don't have enough housing and you want more retail options, then creating more housing, especially in that if you create it in a concentrated area, you're not interrupting the rural character of the rest of the county. Again, develop incrementally and intentionally. And part of that intentionally is study the traffic. People had concerns about traffic, all of that. So again, I got into my next slide. Permit housing first, develop population, and increase density to make future commercial development possible. Again, that's just really thinking about if you're a business owner and you are thinking about where you want to locate, what are you going to look for? You're going to look to make sure that you have customers. This obviously affects things like the high school or the school system, all of the services that when people are looking to relocate, when you're trying to hire in Gates County, people are going to look at housing and whether or not they have a place to live. So 3, think creatively about the use of resources and combine uses where possible. This actually came up because I know that, I know it because my company did it. There was an assessment on the roof of the community center that's next to the high school. Instead of, it's just a suggestion, again, think creatively. I don't know the answer right now, but think of ways that you can combine uses so that when you are using grant resources or community funds to create these amenities, it would be possible to have a senior center and a daycare. There are models all over the world where seniors take care of children. It's a positive experience for everyone involved. We have removed ourselves from intergenerational interaction in this country, much to our detriment. So you could do that and then have also a co-op grocery store in the same building. There are ways to really creatively use public resources and in ways, the sky's the limit, just to think about collaboration. But just in general, the big idea is keep that in mind. Think outside the box. So, and again, direct growth to this area and build on the energy that's already there. So you already have the library, you have infrastructure that is about to be complete, wastewater. You have people coming in and out to the bank, to the China King, right? To the restaurant there. So you already have some activity and obviously the high school. So there's already an activity center. So build on that, support it, think about how these uses interact with one another. And so in general, again, big idea, build that. And then the recommendations, sort of breaking them down, are address the housing, because thinking about the housing needs of the county as a whole. And then address multifamily myths, because a lot of times, and I encounter this in every locality that I work in, and that there's fear about new people and what that means, and are they going to be the kind of people we want there, and are they going to bring crime? So talking about that and thinking about who would really live in these units that are planned to be built. And I think that with a little bit of research and communication and building trust, that I think that it will become clear that building multifamily units is actually really good for the county as a whole, both the community economically and in terms of building energy here. It would be a really positive development. So again, developing incrementally, think about the new community center and creative ways that could be used. And then address food security. People are saying very clearly that they don't have a convenient place to get healthy food. The food that is available at the dollar stores it's not necessarily healthy, it's more expensive, and then they have to drive a long way to get other types of food. So again, that's a lot all at once. So in conclusion, it's not impossible to build a great Commerce Center, Merchants Commerce Center. However, it needs to be creative and slow and think outside the box and reflective of the realities that we've explored. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Darby. Commissioners, do we have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Darby, I have a question. I know you spoke about alternate stores. Would a neighborhood, let's say neighborhood Walmart, is that equivalent to that or not?
It's my understanding, and again, please do your own research, but my conversations about talking to the Retail Merchants Association is that would still neighborhood Walmart, you still don't have the density. So when I say explore alternative models, I really am talking about the county working with church, the county working with local farmers, there are infinite possibilities of ways to bring healthy food to Gates County and to bring healthy food to that area. It's just going to take, it's not going to be, and if I'm wrong, please call me and I will say I'm so happy to be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. And so it's going to take some creativity and just spend some time on the computer, Google alternative grocery store models or co-op models. Call me and talk to me about it if you want to. There are lots of ways. It's not going to be a traditional grocery pro forma.
And you did say Surrey do have a model of alternative.
Surrey does, and I've connected staff with Surrey staff.
And that's Surrey, Virginia.
Yes, but it's just a little north of here. It's
Right,
not-
but there's a Surrey County in North
Yes, I'm
Carolina,
sorry,
so
yeah,
make sure
yes.
we're-
Some people,
Right,
yeah.
just want to make sure we're.
Surrey County, Virginia, yeah. But again, they're all over the country. People are doing things to address rural food deserts. And it's really inspiring once you start looking at it, researching it. And
Yes, thank you.
sure.
I know in some places, and I can't remember where it is, that they have a community garden and then they sell the produce. Or there's some groups like master gardeners that will have and then have like a roadside market, but, for fresh food and vegetables. I know that's not a grocery store, but it is a start to get some healthy food right there, easily accessible to our population.
Yeah.
And you start small.
You could start small, so again, you could have some combination of master gardeners, or I'm sure many people in Gates County have a large garden that has a little extra that they want to sell. I'm sure that there are farmers that would love to have a market very close by. And then you can start by, buying bulk food, for example, and having that available. It could be a very interesting, very successful project.
Yeah, you just need to think outside the box until we can, and if that was successful, it might encourage someone to come in with a
Right.
more traditional style market.
Right, again, and as again, that's the developing incrementally, so acknowledge where you are, use the energy that you have, build on it, and then next thing, energy, I say energy, but I mean activity and economic energy, it will snowball, it will build on itself.
And as you mentioned, the more population grows, the more we have housing provided for the population growth, then down the road, over time, it could be a reality.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Don't have any questions. I appreciate maybe I have a question. I don't know. I appreciate the plan coming through. I know that we had originally talked about, and we've had a lot of question about the results of the participation survey and the findings of that coming forth in October, and having that question come forward to us month after month. I'm happy to see that it was more than just the results. There was a plan attached with it for the delay from October. I also appreciate, like you said, the due diligence on the grocery store and looking into that. I know when the property purchase came up, I was not a commissioner at the time, but I also made many calls to many people and was told the same thing, that our density is not there for the grocery. So having that confirmed was definitely encouraging to look for other options, and given Surrey County as a model possibly is encouraging. I think it's a lot to digest and have to read through because, as you mentioned, keeping the rural feel of the county is important to, as you said, so many. And I think that that's something that has to be approached with care to encompass the feel of Gates County.
Sure.
And not lose that in this process.
Right.
So I appreciate all the information. I look forward to reading through it thoroughly and possibly emailing you or reaching out with more questions
Yep.
afterwards. But yeah, no, I do appreciate the information. I think it was put together well.
Thank you, thank you. And I am available if you want to talk about it or digest it or have questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners, for the questions. Can you please share the timeline, the in-depth timeline that you were talking about?
Yes.
I would like to see that just.
Sure.
It's starting in 2008. I would love to see
Sure.
how it's built up.
And you'll see that, I'll share it, and you'll see that it is pieced together. Meeting minutes at this date say this, article says this, grant application says this, and that's something that staff and I worked on. They provided a lot of that information too, so I will share it.
And listening to Ms. Darby and all the commissioners, and you hit on it right at the very end, you're thinking outside the box and having somewhere maybe for our residents to sell their own produce. So it's got farmer's market written all over it, and I think that would stand out. I'm thinking about Mr. Beeman standing on the corner selling
And
produce.
he's no longer there.
And he's no longer there, but he's been there for many years, and having a place to go to sell that produce to provide the freshness to our citizens. So, thank you for your presentation, echoing off what Ms. Truman said, that it was well put together. It has been a long time coming. Citizens have been asking month after month, and we have it. So thank you for that. And Mr. Sauer, I think we should probably, at some point in time, maybe have a work session or a retreat to discuss this at a later date. I know budget season's coming upon us, but I guess we should.
It all fits.
Yeah, we should start talking about a master plan and what we want it to really look like, and it will be adjustments to it as we go along. We're going to have to think outside the box. It's not a cookie cutter grocery store going in. It's going to have something to fit our citizens in our county. So I really appreciate that information.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to new business, Trillium Health Resources Annual Presentation will be presented by Ms. Bobby Lowe, Regional Vice President, Northern Region. Welcome, Ms. Lowe.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to come, and thank you so much for accommodating my schedule with the switch. I really appreciate it. I could try to get back from Chapel Hill at 5, but I can't drive that fast. All right, so I'm going to go over some information, provide our annual update, and just share some changes, because there have actually been a lot of changes since last time I was here. I know I was here in October, so some of those things worked out, and I'll talk about that with consolidation and such. So just some of our numbers. For fiscal year 22-23, we served almost 44,000 individuals, about 33,000 individuals with mental health needs, a little over 12,000 for substance use, and 7,500 with developmental disabilities. Those services came to about $650 million of health care provided in Eastern North Carolina. So you heard about the tailored plan from Bland for years, many years, and oftentimes we would come back and say the tailored plan got delayed. The tailored plan got delayed. So this last year, the General Assembly took some action to make sure that tailored plans could go live and that they could be successful and stable when they did. Excuse me. So when the budget went through this year, some of the changes they actually put into legislation, the original law said tailored plans, there could be 6. That got changed to say there would be 4 or 5. When it said 6, there were 6 LME MCOs. So they changed the legislation to say there were 4 or 5. They increased the population, that any tailored plan should have 1.5 million people. And it also gave the Secretary of Health and Human Services the authority to make changes to the LME MCO structure, to essentially do what he needed to do to make sure tailored plans could go live and that there would be strong, sustainable entities when that happened. And they actually gave us another go live date of July 1st, 2024. So with all of those changes, I know when I came before, we talked about there might be some county changes. So it was big. It ended up being a total consolidation with Trillium, with East Point and Sand Hills, with the exception of 3 counties in Sand Hills that went to the other 3 MCOs. And because of the time frame, there was a surviving entity named, and Trillium was a surviving entity. So we had the directive from the Secretary in November. This is a really tight time frame. We had consolidation plans that went back and forth with us in East Point. They were approved. The final approval date was December 18th. Our final consolidation was February 1st. With that, we added 18 new counties. Bringing counties on is something we've done many times. We've added Nash and Columbus and Bladen when the county commissioners chose to join Trillium. Halifax chose to join us. So we've done it before, but usually you're talking 4 or 6 months. This one was quick. So that put us at 46 counties. That is our current catchment area. I've been working here about 14 years, and I've always said Eastern North Carolina. I'm having to rephrase my language because now we do cover as far as Greensboro. When tailored plan goes live, so our total population now is 3.1 million, so we are well above the 1.5 the General Assembly set. We're going to have over 51,000 tailored plan members, about 163 people who have Medicaid direct, and about 287 individuals in our catchment area that are uninsured. So these are our 5 regions. In the northern region, which is where Gates falls, we didn't change a lot, we just added Warren. So we've always been 11 counties, now we're 12 counties in the northern region. What that means is we've added 2 more people onto our regional advisory board that Commissioner Roundtree and Ms. Powell sit on. But for us, in our region, that was probably the biggest change, was just bringing Warren County on. Each of these regions has a regional vice president. We have a community liaison who actually works in the counties, and we have a regional advisory board. And our governing board is still going to be made up of those people from the regional advisory board. So our local board in the north will continue to appoint people to our governing board, and so we will continue to be governed by people that our counties are putting up. So I just wanted to touch on tailored plan again, just because this is the biggest change in Medicaid healthcare in decades. The system we've had for years has always been, if you went to a doctor, it was fee for service, the doctor billed Medicaid, and it was done, and behavioral health care was managed by us. That's how it's always been. In 2021, the state went live with standard plans. That was in July. And so those 4 insurance companies are now managing Medicaid for most people who have Medicaid. So most of your citizens, even those with moderate behavioral health needs, their services, their care is being managed by Blue Cross, United, WellCare, or AmeriHealth. So when we go live on tailored plan July 1st, we will be managing total health care, pharmacy benefits, physical health care, and behavioral health services for people who have some of the most severe behavioral health needs, substance use disorder, intellectual or developmental disabilities. So that means if they're going to see a cardiologist, a psychiatrist, or a physical therapist, all of that care is being managed by us. And that really helps support whole person care, which in the long run is really going to make a lot of sense to try to tie everything together. We've had some changes in care management to try to expand care management to help better support people. One of the things we've done is we've been expanding provider-based care management. And so those are those community-based providers who actually offer that service out in the community for people who are eligible for tailored plan. We have internally developed some specialized teams. We have one, I'll hit up on one called the Trillium Support Transition and Reentry. And we're going to have a team of care managers who specialize in people who are leaving the jail and going back into society, so that hopefully we can help people get connected to things that they need, so we can reduce some recidivism after they've done, their time in jail. We're continuing to really try to focus on whole person care and really look at population health as that relates to behavioral health and care management. So a couple updates. So we have started doing some substance abuse prevention in the schools. In Gates County, I work with Mr. Wright at the schools, and we have brought sold out youth into Gates County schools. That's a program. It was started by Roman Gabriel. His dad was a football player. And so it actually is it's an abstinence-based alcohol and drug prevention program, and it focuses on fentanyl because fentanyl is deadly. And so it's online. The kids can do it using these videos, and that's how teenagers, their attention span right now is on little short 2 and 3 minute videos. I have one at home, and that's what she watches. So it can be incorporated right into the school system. So that has rolled out. We continue to work and bring naloxone kits to the counties. We also did a reentry simulation in Elizabeth City. Commissioner Truman attended that. It was really interesting, but it lets someone walk through what is it like when you leave jail, and you have to access behavioral health care. You have to find a place to live. You have to get a job. You don't have an ID. You don't have a ride, and you've got $23 and no birth certificate. And so you actually go through trying to get housing and ID, and it's interesting. I ended up back in jail like every time I did it, so. We're doing another one of those April 2nd in Halifax. If anyone wants to come, let me know. It is an eye-opening experience. Even with all that I know, I couldn't figure out how to navigate the system. Some upcoming projects. So we recently partnered with the Department of Health and Human Services to roll out a program called CHESS. It is an app, and it focuses on recovery. And so it's meant to help people going into recovery connect with peers. So that has now rolled out. We recently got a grant from HUD called Back at Home, and so that is going to focus on individuals who are unhoused, and it's kind of a housing support program. And we do continue to try to develop Oxford houses. All right, some numbers for Gates County. So we have served 193 people in Gates County, 144 for mental health, 52 substance use, and 26 with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And that's all I have tonight. So I will be happy to take any questions.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from the commissioners?
Yes, Director Lowe, the health opportunities, the health opportunities pilot program, that began in May?
Yes, that'll roll out in May. And so there are certain counties that were picked by the state to be pilot counties. And that program looks at using Medicaid to help assist with things like housing, food, transportation, to see if we can see improved health outcomes if we take care of those needs. We all know you can't worry about taking your medicine and going to the doctor if you don't know where you're going to sleep. But this pilot is actually geared to try to get some data to support that. And so we are very hopeful that that will get extended to the entire state. And we will be able to roll that out May 1st.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No questions, but I'm really excited about the whole person care going forth. We've talked about that. That's something I care a lot about. I I think that the numbers for Gates County, given our size, are encouraging, that they're reaching out, and when the whole person opportunity comes out, I think that that will hopefully increase the numbers served for our area. And then just to second what you said about the reentry, if anyone is able or curious to go to that reentry in Halifax isn't that far of a drive.
It's worth it.
It was very enlightening, very eye-opening, and it was only a few hours. And the amount of stress I had when I knew I had a home to go home to with food in it and the things that I need, the amount of stress that was incurred in that exercise was immense. And to kind of just feel for just a moment a fraction of what somebody actually going through that may feel could absolutely change your outlook on how you interact with people in need. I know I felt like I was snappy with people around me, and, you know, we want to talk about, oh, I'm trying to help them, and they're not grateful for it. Well, they're tired, and they're hurt, and they're constantly turned away. And just the compassion and the empathy that you can gain from that exercise, I would encourage anybody to be a part of it.
Thank you.
It's certainly an interesting presentation, and also from everything I have read with substance abuse and it takes a lot of times, numerous times, for the person to get to be once again a functioning member of society. So many temptations are out there, and then when they go back in the same communities that they came out of, and their old friends are still doing it, it's a lot of pressure. So anything we can do, it can't be just a one-shot deal. It's got to be a long-term process.
That's why we're looking at things like an app, because an app, it is not going to work for everybody, but it's going to work for somebody. You know, it takes a lot of different kinds of approaches and approaches on different levels to reach people. Nothing is a one-size-fits-all, especially with addiction treatment.
That's right.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Hearing you talk, and Commissioner Raintree and Commissioner Truman, I hear the passion in y'all's voices when you talk. It's truly a great thing y'all are doing, and I'd like to thank all of you for doing that. It's doing a lot for our county and other counties surrounding, and we truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So the Board of Commissioners wanted to thank everyone for the PowerPoints, for the very informative PowerPoints that we've just seen. We will have Clerk Chestnut post these on the county's website, so the viewers and the rest of the citizens have the option to go up and see them. So thank you again. Okay, we're going to move on to the county manager report. So our county manager, Scott Sauer, will now present.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. The board has a written report that I will refer to at your seat. As I mentioned at the last gathering of the Board of Commissioners, the tax office brought to our attention circumstances where a disabled veteran who was 100% disabled had thought that he would qualify for tax exemption for his vehicle property taxes. And when they got to reviewing the statutes, there are a couple of qualifiers. One, the existing general statutes, 105-275, Section 5 and 5A, first, only allow this exemption for those veterans who served during World War II, the Korean conflict, and the Vietnam era. There is no consideration for any subsequent military service, and we all know we've been through a lot in the last 2.5 decades. The other provision that prevented him from qualifying under the statute is that the statute requires that the vehicle the person drives be adapted with special equipment for the veteran. For example, if a veteran has a limb missing, sometimes there are adaptations made either for the pedals down below or on the steering wheel. And in this case, the veteran was 100% disabled, but if he walked in the room and came up here and shook your hand, you might not realize that because some disabilities are not readily visible. So the tax office has actually been in contact with Representative Don Davis's office. We've been in contact with Senator Bobby Hannig's office, and I'd like to suggest to the board and along with the tax administrator that we suggest that the General Assembly and our Association of County Commissioners review the possibility of amending the state general statutes to include those military theaters, I guess is the way to put it, that have occurred since Vietnam, and also explore the adjustment for the adaptive equipment requirement for the vehicles, because many folks can function and drive their vehicle, but they don't have a physical disability. It's another qualifying, whether it's PTSD or traumatic brain injury. And if the board would be so inclined, I'd like to see if the board would go on record and adopt this as a recommendation that we carry forward to the association and our legislators. And I'll work with Ms. Chestnut to have a letter prepared for the board to send out to all of the appropriate folks. But I think it would be very appropriate if the board would go on record publicly to help support this initiative.
I don't have a problem with it. It's certainly, we've had a lot of military engagements since Vietnam. We've had the things in the Middle East and a variety of other places. And all of us, I think, we understand that physical, but the psychological or mental can be just as damaging as any type of physical disability.
Yeah.
So I would move to that we get our county manager to get a letter so that we can mail to our congressional delegation and state delegations.
I have a motion on the floor.
I would second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right.
Any support to our veterans?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Ayes have it.
Thank you very much. Item number 2. I have had the pleasure of meeting a lot of Gates County residents in the last, I'll just say since Christmas. I don't know what has happened with our U.S. Postal Service, but I know my family has experienced late delivery of Christmas cards and things of that nature. But it's really impacted utility billing and particularly utility payments. And time after time, someone will come to my office and explain that they got their bill. It was just a few days prior to when the date was due. So I think the delivery of the bills is slow in being received by our customers. And they dutifully, and I've heard this story so many times, it's got to be consistent and I believe truthful. They dutifully write their check, put it in the mail, and send it right away. And we have case after case, more than 30 days, in some cases way beyond 30 days, where that check has not been received for that utility bill. Now, like many city and county utility billing entities, we use a mass mailing system where our bills are printed remotely, they're folded, stuffed in the envelope, and they are sent from Philadelphia. And I think we've had that in place for a number of years, and many folks have done that. Well, when the citizen writes their check and tears off the receipt, puts it in the envelope, it's going back to Philadelphia. And daggone it if that's not really created some hiccups. Well, our policy as it exists has a penalty assessment for late bills of $60. And I can't tell you how many folks have come and they've had just a $29 water bill or a $49 water bill, but then a $60 fee assessed. And what I would like to suggest on behalf of my office and the finance office is the board, by action this evening, grant that I have discretion to both adjust and/or waive that $60 late fee, and to also have it apply beyond the U.S. mail issue, because it's been brought to my attention we may have cases with U.S. military personnel who are doing their reserve training and are off-site for a number of weeks, or maybe they're overseas and deployed. So I think we'd want to be able to use that discretion to really try to create a fair playing field for our customers. And I have to admit, I've had to have a personal bit of confession with several of the customers, because for the last 2 months in a row, Roanoke Electric has sent me a cutoff notice. I've been in the same house 11 years. I've never missed a payment, but they've changed the portal for their billing. And by golly, I'm struggling with it the last 2 months. So I've got a lot of empathy for the folks that come in and struggle with the Gates County water bill when I can't even get my electric bill paid. So anyhow, if the board would be positively inclined, I'd appreciate a motion granting this flexibility, discretion, and ability to apply a waiver if necessary, as outlined on your report.
Vice Chair Craddock, like the motion to give County Manager Sauer the discretion to modify the penalty for water bills.
May I just ask one question? I
We
fully.
can answer a question after we go.
Okay.
We've got a motion on the floor.
Okay.
Second.
I'll second it.
All right,
Okay.
so open for
Good night.
discussion.
Okay. No, I'm totally for, obviously, the discretionary thing, but is there any kind of liability with it being a discretion, like, of the discretion of one person, should someone come in and they be denied? Is there any sort of county,
Not if the board
if we're giving him discretion?
gives them that discretion.
Okay.
And of course, he would have a written why he did that, you know, it was
Right.
like one time only, or.
I just want to protect him.
No,
Well, and it's usually a team approach. I try to avoid bringing Mr. Robertson into every scenario, and I've gotten to know Daphne Walker really well.
Right.
She's got one of the toughest jobs
Yeah.
in Gates County.
I just want to protect you all.
Thank you.
So as long as the liability is,
We all appreciate that
then we're
thought.
good.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Well, thank you very much. Item 3 is informational. Many times, the board has heard reports from Brad Arnold, our Public Utilities Director, about the need to upgrade and replace our water meters and to go to a more modern technology, which the board had approved. The board has appropriated funds, signed a contract back in July, and those folks are on the ground. We've got approximately 4,600 water meters to be replaced, and as of yesterday, we're at 39% complete with 1,660 meters installed, and they are pushing every day to make this thing 100% complete. But I'm very grateful to the work that he and his team have done on this.
Do you have any idea of approximately finished date?
Well, Brad, I told you were going to have to get up here sooner or later.
I mean, I just want a ballpark. I understand there's some things that could affect it.
Members of the board. I don't have an approximate, hopefully, end of summer, somewhere in that ballpark.
July 1st? September 1st?
Try August 1st, maybe.
August 1st?
August 1st.
Okay.
And that's tentative.
Well, I understand.
They've had a little bit of staffing issues. The supervisor actually left last week to try to go hire some folks to get the process moving a little faster, so. Based on the outcome of that, it could be more or less.
And what
Brad is
part?
very diligent, and one of the first crews that came in broke over 20 of these new meters.
Oh.
And he fired them on the spot and called the regional project manager and explained our situation. And those meters will be swapped out. We'll get brand new ones to replace it. We've got a brand new crew coming in, but he has stayed right on top of that.
Appreciate that.
Well, we might as well leave him up here for a while.
That's what I was going to suggest that.
Item next, when the board had its January meeting, we met jointly with the town of Gatesville for part of that. And we covered a smorgasbord of issues. But one of the items that has been brought to my attention by the mayor and several different citizens in town was the fact that the fire hydrant across the street in front of the 200 building hasn't worked in years. I don't know if anybody's got a date, but Mr. Arnold and his crew changed that meter on Valentine's Day. So if that's not spreading the love, I don't know what is. He even painted it red for Valentine's Day. He also took receipt just a week ago of the 15 new hydrants that the board had approved in your ARPA plan back several months. And he is coordinating with Billy Tutwiler and all the fire chiefs to make sure we get lists from them as to where to go first with these. I think you said there's one at Grant's store that's pretty high on your
Yes.
your list.
Can I interrupt you for a minute? So we were talking, most evenings on the way home from work, I come right by the water plant, and Chair Riddick and myself were having a conversation the other day, and we were talking about fire hydrants. And she said, I wonder if we got them fire hydrants in. So I rode by yesterday, and I happened to look over, I saw a stack of fire hydrants. So I called her up, I said, they're in. So anyway, I just wanted to show you that little tidbit.
Well, it's important, and we've got them on the ground. February 20th, the North Carolina Water Infrastructure Authority approved 4 projects, water and sewer related for Gates County. 2 of those key studies that you've heard about many times from the director and our engineer is that we need an evaluation of our water system to identify all the assets, to come up with GPS locations, all of the valves, connection points, and the grant for the water system evaluation, which will also include a hydraulic study. That was $383,000 that's been approved. A wastewater study has been approved. That's $167,000. And as the board works toward prioritizing and spending the funds that came from the legislature in that separate package in the state budget, that's about $9.8 million, those 2 studies will be a wealth of information to help you with your decisions. There's $328,000 for what's called the lead service line inventory study. Now, that was split up 35% grant, the remaining in a zero-interest loan for the county. And with the lead service line, we'll be trying to inventory those lines that run from the meter toward the house, and in some cases, under the house, to help identify customers that may have lead pipes at their dwellings. And as we complete that study, hopefully there will be monies to actually help pay for those corrections. And last but not least, and this was one of the items on your legislative priority list last year, is money to restore the initial wastewater treatment plant that's located over behind the old prison. The county's been approved $2.2 million. And this is through the state revolving fund. 1.5 million of that amount is what they call principal forgiveness, which means it's a grant. But the other component, 718,000, is a 20-year zero interest loan. But that will go a long way toward helping us maintain the life of that facility and hopefully get the capacity back up. On the state budget appropriation with the 9.8 million, Brad has given a lot of thought to this, and as we outline these priorities, as we understand it now, one of the most important things we can do is have an additional well installed. Locations for that well will be determined based on the hydraulic study. But as you've heard from the engineering team, Mr. Tart, we've got, I think, 3 wells that are operational,
Correct, yes, 3.
and only one of those wells is functioning at or near capacity. The other 2 are very much less than, I don't know if you've got a percentage on efficiencies, but if that one significant well were to go out, we'd really be in a world of hurt. So we believe that's got to be tops on your list. Item 2 is the replacement of the Gatesville water tank. That's $1.46 million. Item next is a 12-inch water supply line bringing from where the primary well is into the town of Gatesville. It's almost 17,000 linear feet of 12-inch pipe. This will help us hydraulically, both for fire and to serve some other customers, as the board heard several months ago out toward the Ashton Lewis area. If they could tap into a major supply line, that'd be helpful for them and many folks. Item next is a hydraulic connection under Bennett's Creek. Apparently, we've got dead ends at the town. If you go to the duct through, when you pull in the driveway, there's a fire hydrant right there. That's the dead end for the Gatesville, the former Gatesville system. And if you were to cross Bennett's Creek, there's another dead end where the county line stops. So our hope is to tie those 2 together. And again, that will bring us a secondary supply for the town and give us the ability to push water either direction in the event of a water line break or things of that nature. Brad's got another line replacement where we had a broken water line on Carter's Road. Apparently this was destroyed in a storm many years ago. And rather than get the line replaced, the line was capped at both ends. And Brad has indicated that that's a fairly critical hydraulic connection for us. He's got some upgrades to his system control systems, some work he needs to do at his water plant, and that gets us to just below $6.5 million of the state allocation. And with the remaining $3.345 million, I think the board's got some flexibility to tackle some other projects. And what I'd like to suggest when we do that other work session to talk about the item from earlier, we can roll in some infrastructure components for the board to look at as well. And while we have Brad up here, I've got a few slides to share. I didn't realize I'd compete with the quality of Ms. Bobby Lowe and Ms. Darby. So if they don't look quite as polished, please forgive me. But these will be on the screen. The folks at home will be able to see them.
Mr. Sauer, can I say one thing real quick? On the AIA grants, and what you were talking about asset inventory, going to have a GPS location for every fire hydrant.
Fire hydrants, valves, our water meters are currently getting GIS while they're putting them in, but it'll be hydrant valves, mainline valves, hydrants.
Yep. So what does this do for us? I know places most of Sunbury has already got some GPS locations on their hydrants and everything. But when you call 911, they can tell what the closest fire hydrant is to the structure fire or whatever fire it is, also using this.
Correct.
So that is a plus for Gates County. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to say that.
Okay. Well, if the IT team will help queue up, there we go. I want to take off from where Ms. Darby left us. Again, this is a conceptual plan. There's a lot of opportunity to make adjustments in our thought in the application of that facility, and I wanted to share just a little bit of history. If we can go, I was gonna say, can we go to the new slide? Well, they gave me the stick. See, I can do that myself. How about that? This map is from 2012 and had been in the planning office and used for any number of reports. At the bottom of the screen, the green rectangle, that's the old wastewater treatment plant, the one that was tied to the prison. And when the prison was conveyed to the county, and I don't know the exact year, from what I gather, the discussions started around 2008, but it could have been a year or two or three before the actual transfer of assets occurred. The Merchants Commerce Center property is all-inclusive of a large rectangle above and around that aqua area that was the commercial strip in the front. And on the top left-hand side, the red line border is the diagram or outline for the new wastewater treatment plant that was constructed for Gates County. And you will see sort of a yellowish, orangish hash line that comes down Cotton Gin Road to 158, and then it makes its way over and eventually goes down Honey Pot Road where there's a pump station into the new station. So that is the backbone of the infrastructure that was put in place with planning that began about 15 years ago. April 2009, the Board of Commissioners here in Gates County commissioned a wastewater feasibility study to examine what capacity we had with the wastewater treatment facility from the state, plus what future wastewater feasibility might, or what wastewater requirements might be necessary for future development. Again, I wasn't here, but I am presuming that as the engineering team gave this report and brought it before the board, that they looked at your current utilities, they examined that wastewater treatment system for the Department of Correction, which was originally a 25,000 gallon per day facility. At that time, it was downgraded to 11,000. At one point, I believe I read, it went down to 8,000, and I think now, are we at 15?
We're at 15 currently.
Under the current. But they apparently involved discussions with the farming community. They looked at CAMA, and there was a lot of work with, at the bottom, developer and funding partners. And I guess it's best described as efforts toward a public-private partnership. On the next slide, they highlighted some of the groups they were looking at for grant funds. That Richard Rogers, that's the Clean Water Management Trust Fund. Below him is Patrick Woody, who is with Dr. Riddick for the next couple of days. He's now the executive director of the North Carolina Rural Center. He used to be just the chief budget officer that would allocate the grants. Dennis DeLong was a longtime deputy director at USDA. George Sherrill, I think, is still with Commerce in state. And Vance Holloman, I know Mr. Robertson was familiar with. He helped with a lot of debt service at the Local Government Commission. But basically, they started with a clean slate. And they were looking at that area of the county and beyond. And again, this slide, this report comes from 2009. And at that time, the county while they were taking over the prison property and the wastewater treatment plant, did not yet own the land up at Cotton Gin Road. And as Ms. Darby highlighted in her report, there was a lot of zoning review and applications made and recommendations to the board. And as early as 2009, there was discussion about the commercial tracks in the beige paralleling 158. There was discussions about multi-family units. And again, all the narrative with these reports speaks to commercial development, and they didn't use the term high-end, but it was definitely what you'd call first-class multifamily development. The area in the lime green, that land is privately held and had been available for private development. I believe there's a couple of houses out there, but it still, I think, affords some opportunity. But again, that was a look at the vision of the private developers back in 2009. This was just a schematic of the wastewater treatment plant that the board took ownership of and still has operation for. There was also an extensive section on looking at the county's entire land use plan and development corridors. There was, I think you acknowledged some extensive planning and due diligence on the part of the county commissioners. And they had engaged this group, the Kavanaugh team. They went through a request for qualifications in 2010, I think the narrative said, and they were engaged to do the sewer collection system that would ultimately serve inside what we call the Merchants Commerce Park. And I don't have all the plans. I just wanted to let you know the documentation is there, and the folks that preceded me kept really great records for us to look back at. I'm going to refer to my paper copy because I can't read that small print up there, but this is available electronically for everybody. But in 2011, Gates County made and was successful in securing grants totaling $2,150,000 to support this infrastructure development. $900,000 from the United States Economic Development Administration, $700,000 from the Rural Center, $200,000 from Golden Leaf Foundation, and $350,000 from the Economic Development section of Department of Commerce in the state of North Carolina. Actually, these bullets were prepared by one of your former county managers, but I'm not sure which one because it didn't have a name on it. I'd say the most prevalent names in some of this documentation was either a Mr. Toby Chappell or Ms. Natalie Roundtree. But to both of them and the 12 others in between, they've provided a lot of files to help guide me down this path. But it mentions that it was June of 2011 that Gates County acquired the 20.5 acres from the Department of Corrections, which included a 7.5 acre spray field. And it was in 2012 that, with the help of the Kavanaugh engineers, that they installed the gravity sewer lines for the initial layout of the Commerce Center, Merchants Commerce Center. And it was 9,200 linear feet of sewer line. That's a 1.75 miles. That was a significant investment of infrastructure in the property that the county now owns. They had a second page, and they made note that as they explored options for another site for a new wastewater treatment plant, that there were a couple of sites that just didn't pass muster on the soils analysis. They ultimately ended up at the end of Will Lane, just off of Cotton Gin Road. And The last bullet didn't come out on my scanning this week, but I want to share this phrase that previous manager wrote, that, again, this was in about 2013, I think, when this report was provided, indicates the latest preliminary cost opinion supplied by the engineer indicates total construction costs for Phase 2 of this project would be another $2,139,000, and they had hoped to use the remaining grant funds on that. So I'm going to jump back and remind everybody, that's where we are. We've got those designated areas. And we jump to 2017. I'm assuming that through the securing of the grants, that for the Phase 2, the county was required to go through another request for qualifications. They changed engineers to the municipal engineering group, and you can't read it, it's too small. They had hoped to have the bid opening done September of 2017 and finished September of 2018. Again, I'm going to just buzz through these, because I got pictures next. And they came up with cost estimates at that time. Again, this is 2017 now. The total price for this whole package grew to $3.9 million. And again, and I believe credit for this summary may go to former manager Roundtree. This is of August 2017, a summary of all sources of grant and local monies, which is about $3.6 million of Gates County money. This project was running right at $5.2 million. And that was for your sewer pipe that's underground, your pump station upgrade, acquiring the property on Will Lane, and building the new wastewater treatment plant, which has never been started until last week. I need to switch to the next file. And this one is a much shorter file, I promise. Is that it? I always like to go to that because those colors help me remember what I'm looking at. And again, I decided to use this chart as often as I could because it's $5.2 million. That was one heck of an investment in the infrastructure. Item next, I've got copies of correspondence from the regulators who were working with the private developers. Again, this was a public-private partnership. This is U.S. Army Corps of Engineers back in March of 2011, providing the delineation for wetlands, but was only valid for 5 years. And they noted that in the correspondence from 2011 to 2016. So that delineation may have to be recycled and repurposed, but the wetlands delineation was done at that time. Item next is the erosion and sedimentation control approval. Again, that occurred in 2011, and it was done in the name of the private developers for this project. This was not a Gates County application for the erosion control and sedimentation. Item next was the Department of Transportation issuing the driveway permit, and they classified this as the Merchants Commerce Center for residential / subdivision / commercial access to 158. So as early as that application with DOT, it was recognized as the Commerce Center and as a mixed use, including residential development. Item next is the stormwater permit, again for the Merchants Commerce Center, and that too was issued in 2011. On the right-hand side, that is the public water supply tracking document that was in the name of Gates County and identified our certified operator at that time as Mr. Timmy Hedgepeth. So it was the utility piece that the county handled as part of this partnership. And apparently there was a debate about who had access, who had easements, who could control who's in and out of the property. And the county attorney at that time wrote a very strong letter of clarification that there was no problem, that all the easements were recorded, and but it was clear that you were serious about that one. 2018, former manager Roundtree had provided a detailed update of all of the changes and applications related to the zoning that occurred over about a 10-year period. The letter on the left is from USEDA confirming the $900,000, which was purposed through their funding for rehabilitation and expansion of wastewater treatment facilities to serve new commercial development located on US Highway 158 in Gates County. Next, we moved to an appraisal, which was prepared for the private landowners that were developing this property. As of September of 2013, that land had a value of $600,000. And that's about the same price I think the county paid for it almost a decade later. And I dare say with the investment of utilities, it's probably worth a little more. So I go to my favorite picture. I go to my favorite spreadsheet, still $5.2 million. And then I get to my roadblock. And this is what Mr. Arnold wrestles with every day. This letter was written in November of 2017, received by Gates County, and it's a notification of a sewer moratorium. And the representative at DEQ states, Gates County wastewater treatment facility is unable to adequately collect and treat waste tributary to its wastewater treatment facility. And this is the old facility. This is the facility that the prison used to operate and the state used to own. They go on to state in this correspondence, since January of 2016, Gates County violated the operation of its permitted 15,000 gallon per day flow into the facility for the months of January, February, March, April, May, September, October, November, and December of 2016, and then January, February, and August of 2017. Again, this letter was written in November of 17. Gates County is therefore and hereby placed on a sewer moratorium with no new sewer taps, sewer extensions, or additional flow at its wastewater treatment plant effective January 13 of 2018. And I think Brad can confirm, I think we've got 7 customers on the sewer facility. It's the Central Middle School, the Gates County High School. Help me out.
Gates House, Credit Union,
Library. Okay. Here's the caveat. This was page 2. This moratorium will remain in effect until Gates County has built and certified their new plant permitted under WQ 267 dated June 20th, 2017. This moratorium will be rescinded when Gates County can demonstrate that it can adequately treat its waste and has obtained a written permission from the Division of Water Resources suspending the moratorium. That's where we are stuck. That's where we've been since November of 17 or January of 2018. And it's time to jump to the next. And this is the final. And this is the fun one because it's got all the colored pictures. And for December, January, February, and March, this is where I've been with Brad Arnold several times. And on one of the trips, we even convinced Dr. Riddick to attend with us. That's where we had a couple of officials from North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. This is your lagoon. As I understand, it's 1 acre, 2.6 million gallons. Does that sound about right?
2.9 million gallons.
Oh, 2.9. See, the 6 was inverted to be 2.9. It's a beautiful picture. Since it's not been activated, it doesn't smell like a wastewater treatment plant. It smells like a fishing pond. But there's a couple of things missing. Typically, Brad has reinforced for me over and over that we would have a fence around the berm of this lagoon for the safety and protection of the public and for those animals and critters that find their way up there. If you go now, I saw just the other day a couple of turtles floating that couldn't make it out. That black rubber liner is slick. And if you happen to fall in there and you didn't bring a buddy with you, you're not getting out of there. There's just no way to claw your way, to climb your way up out of that lagoon. It is slick. And Brad's shared with me he's had deer get in there and drown. He's had bear get in there and drown. And the only thing we have protecting this facility, which is 57 acres, I think the total tract of land.
The total tract of land, yes.
That is owned by Gates County is about a 4-foot fence. That's not much. And we really need a fence around this berm because it'd be so easy for a child to want to just go out and play with their buddies, sneak over the fence and, oh boy, look at this. Well, Brad has brought to my attention, and we are in the process of working on it, that a facility like this should have at least 2 escape ladders that lay down the side of that pond or lagoon on 2 sides, where if you're in there, you could at least swim to that ladder and make your way out if you're all by yourself. He's also indicated that we should have some safety ropes and lifesaver rings available probably on the 4 corners where if you do have a buddy there, they can toss you a ring and hopefully pull you out. Another view from the other corner. Brad's been teaching me a lot. I didn't take physics or biology of any other than what I got in high school. He told me this is a sequential batch reactor. That is an open top container that's 20 feet high. And you'll see there's a ladder on the right-hand corner of it. And that's where Brad makes his way to check on things over that wall. Again, it's 20 feet deep. I'll go to the, and once you get your way up on top, you've got 12 inches of concrete to make your way around that unit. And then you have to shimmy your way down if you've got to service any of those motors or appliances. And why in the world there was no gangway or aluminum walkway for staff or service personnel to get in there is just beyond me. And how this got left like this is, again, y'all just need to know about this, and I want to get a tour lined up for everybody to jump on a bus and we'll go take a ride. And Brad was the one that took these pictures. I did not shimmy up that ladder. So just for reference, that red pipe that goes up and in, once you squeeze in that tube and climb up the ladder, that red pipe's what you see on the other side there. And there's also missing any type of locking device on that ladder. Often you see a gate that swings closed and you put a padlock so that a child can't get it. That's just wide open. So if anybody were to get, I mean, it's very problematic and something that he's worked. So Thursday last week, after all of his testing of devices and swapping out of broken parts, he pushed the button and made it run. But the automated controls have failed. I think you said you got through first cycle, second cycle.
The last three phases, they wouldn't go through.
On the side of the building, there's a control panel. That's the left-hand photo. And again, this building's been sitting here since 2017. Imagine if you bought a new car and let it sit out in the elements since 2017, and then you go to try to start it, and you put a new motor in it, you put new fuel in it, but there might be some things that wouldn't quite work. So Brad's been looking at that configuration of electrical panel circuits, and he's been in contact with the manufacturer and the installer. Of course, it's way out of warranty. The folks are out of, is it Illinois?
Illinois.
And he pulled me aside right before this meeting, because while we were there Thursday morning, he called the folks in Illinois and explained the situation he had, said, I need an immediate service technician, the best you have, to fly down here, to come to Gates County, and to bring a whole truckload of parts, because we don't know exactly what may be malfunctioning. And he got called today.
10 to 12 weeks before they can get here.
So,
What brand is that cabinet? Is that like ABB or is it like PLC?
Allen
cabinet?
Bradley.
Allen Bradley, ABB. I might have some connections for that.
well, that'd be great. And anything would help. And that's just a close-up of the circuitry. Another shot of the lagoon on the far end where the pump house is. The inside of the pump house has the pumps and the motors that send the waste, as I understand it, out to the spray field. We've got how many spray field zones?
4 different zones.
And how many acres would you say that is?
It's 40 wetted acres, which is acres that's sprayed on 40 acres.
And how many sprinkler heads do you think you have? I didn't tell him I was going to quiz him tonight, but it's a lot.
I don't have an answer for that, but it's a lot, yeah.
It's a lot. It's hundreds.
I don't know exactly how many it is.
But anyhow, that's the interior of the pump house. Again, another shot of the control box. Okay, now we move to the, what'd you call this, an EQ?
EQ basin, equalization basin.
You'll need to explain this one.
Well, it does, the red pipe that you see sticking on the end, that is actually where the wastewater comes through the pipe from the Honey Pot pump station. It drops in there, as an aerator, the little disc you see in the middle floats up and down with the level of the water. It works on a level sensor. When it gets to a certain level, I think it's 6.9 feet. No, excuse me, when it gets to 10.3 feet, that sensor tells the pumps to come on, it pumps it out, and when it gets to 6.6 feet, it cuts off. So this catches most of the solids, your paper and
Things.
women's accessories and stuff like that goes in there. in that
So we
bed there.
switched to another day. That day I took the other ones, it was cloudy. This day was beautiful. Dr. Riddick was with us, the two gentlemen from North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality. We had two of our engineers with us. Just taking a closer look. Another shot of the lagoon and the SBR on a pretty day. And the next couple of pictures are important because this is where Brad kept telling me that something was missing. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see some blue barrels, and they're seated on an empty cement pad. Another shot behind the generator, there's an empty cement or concrete pad. To the right, again, you see an empty pad. There was one component missing that was in the design for this project. It was in the permit for this project, but it was never installed. And again, we got an empty pad there, and you've got power and everything right there. Well, this is where Brad gets to explain again what that is.
This is a mobile dewatering sludge box.
Sludge box.
Phase 4 of that SBR plant is a sludge waste phase. It wastes sludge for 4 minutes. Well, what that box does, it has baffles in it and it has little screens. The sludge waste is pumped in the box. The water separates from the sludge, and this orange pipe that you see coiled going back into the influent box, the water goes into that, sludge stays in the box. When the box gets full, I think it's 80%, they come haul it off, drop another one off, and we start all over again.
We are now leasing this sludge box for $2,500 a month, or $30,000 a year. And how long do you think it'll take before you have to fill it up once you get it operational?
According to Aqua Aerobics and some other operators, 8 to 10 months probably.
That's how low our flow is in Gates County. But again,
And that particular box right there is designed, I think he said, for a 500,000 gallon a day plant. That box will carry 500,000 gallons, yeah.
and we are looking for alternatives to try to purchase one of those sludge boxes, so we don't have to have the,
So that sludge, where did they haul that to?
They actually haul it to Cofield and they compost it and then they land apply it. Granville Farms.
I've seen that.
just another shot from a different angle. This is Lacey,
Yes, Lacey.
and she belongs to the former sheriff, I believe, who lives
He-
near the,
Sheriff's deputy, I believe.
Or sheriff
Mr.
deputy.
Mr. Jordan, yeah. She runs the field.
she's
She likes it out
she's
there.
the community watchdog. Very,
He
very,
was sheriff.
So you have a watchdog.
Was he sheriff?
He was a sheriff,
Okay.
you're correct.
He was-
Yep.
he
was a sheriff.
He was sheriff.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
but very, very
for sure.
friendly. This is one of my parting shots. The road was never finished in and out of the facility. And those ruts are not because it's being used, it was just never built up and finished. And we had a few days of heavy rain, and I had to put water skis on my little car and get through there.
I was hoping that was during those days of heavy rain though, and not just ongoing.
I don't know if it's true, I know Brad has ordered some rock, I don't know if it's come in yet or not.
It's-
But-
yeah. I've already spread it.
But that was my first trip in. There's the security gate. Again, it's about 4 feet high. There's our notice of moratorium. I mean, we are stuck. And I want to make sure that people in the audience understand the reason the report presented by Ann Darby was so delayed was because I got worried that there was not a lot of benefit to look at that report when we can't even flip the switch to make the sewer run. Because without the ability to add one more residence, one more business, whether it's a grocery store or what have you, we are dead in the water till we solve this conundrum. But I think we will, and Brad's stating, it's like the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? Well, it's one bite at a time. Well, he's been taking a lot of bites. Green Engineering is looking at a couple of ways to add additional effluent to our wastewater system. And Brad's got a great relationship with Johnny Green with the school system. Our elementary schools are all on a permitted on-site, I guess you call it discharge system.
It's like a sand filter drip system. It's an NPDES permit. And Buckland is in bad shape. Real bad shape.
And it's a liability for the school system, it's a liability for Gates County, and that's probably one of the easiest ones to serve. And if you go to the far upper left-hand corner, that's Buckland School. You come down 37, you turn on Cotton Gin, that's the gravel portion of the road, and it'll take you to where the yellow line goes north, and that's up Wheel Lane to get into our site. That's 14,000 linear feet, and I believe I had calculated, it's about 2.75 miles. Anyhow, that's a possibility, but again, we've got $5.2 million invested. We're trying to figure out how to make it work and bring you a benefit and a return on your investment. And I'm really grateful for what this gentleman does every day, every night, every weekend, because we've had a time with the 5 folks, or not just 5, anybody that's contracted to pull fiber has been cutting his water lines, our water lines. So hats off to Brad and his team.
Any questions for Brad before he sits down? Because I know he's getting tired of standing.
It's just nice that we have the documentation that we have.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got one question. What's the next step that we need to take to get that facility?
Next bite of the apple.
What is our next bite? The ABB?
Getting that figured out and turning the switch on, letting it go. According to our permit, I have, well, the only requirement to the state that I have left to do on the permit after I get it up and going is to let them know 2 days in advance, which I did that 2 weeks ago, and turn it on and let it go.
Okay. I'll send you some phone numbers tomorrow. There's some ABB reps in Richmond, Virginia.
That'd be great.
And I'm sure it's the classic PLC, but I'll send you some numbers tomorrow that might be able to.
Okay.
It might not be used to a wastewater facility, but PLC is a PLC.
It's the same, isn't it?
Yep. So, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
You do it, you do it.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about the final page of my report. Y'all wore me out on sewer and sludge. The final page of the report for you this evening is an itemized list of legislative funding items for capital outlay to be sent to our legislators. And I think it'd be very appropriate if the board would vote to send this on so that when we write our letters of communication, we can state that this letter is consistent with the board's priorities and was voted on March 20th, and we'll move it out.
All right, so I'm gonna read these priorities. So around the Merchants Commerce Center site improvements, left-hand turn lane for access on US 158. This is an NCDOT requirement. If I'm not mistaken, before anything else can go on that lane, there has to be a turn lane. A couple of years ago, I think it was 250,000. Now it's 300,000. These are what we'll be asking for, hopefully, from short session and long session from the General Assembly. Grading and clearing storm water retention ponds, 750,000. Phase 1, paving streets, sidewalks, curbs, gutter, that's 2.175 million. Phase 2, paving streets, sidewalks, curbs, and gutters, 2.3 million. 300,000 gallon elevated water tank for fire protection, 2.55 million. Next one we drop down to, we've had a lot of talk around the existing community center and the amount of money that it will cost to fix our existing community center. I've been on top of the community center. I've been inside the community center. I've been around the community center. We'll be asking the General Assembly for $4.8 million to build a 20,000 square foot facility, gymnasium, education rooms, kitchen, exercise area, indoor walking track, physical adaptive equipment to replace our existing structure. Then also for the town of Gates, that's $4.8 million for a new community center. Town of Gatesville wastewater collection and sewer system, including Gatesville Elementary School sewer connection to address existing high-cost maintenance and operational issues and environmental concerns, $7.5 million. So the town of Gatesville does not have sewer, and if Mr. Arnold, I know he will do his due diligence in getting our facility back running, or not back running, we will have somewhere to tie into. So this is the legislation funding priorities that we've talked about some. So I want to request a motion to submit the 2024 legislative funding priorities.
Vice Chair Craddock, on the motion that we submit the legislation funding requirements.
I have a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Open for discussion.
I do have one question. The community center, would that be federal dollars or state dollars that we're going to seek out there?
We're going to
Be federal.
approach both
Yeah.
directions.
Gotcha.
We want to state, and then there's a potential of the 4.8 million being federal as well. Is that correct?
Yes, and this being a short session with the State General Assembly, there may be very limited funds available. But we've been advised by our lobbyist, Mr. Steinberg, that it's important that we have a priority list so that folks have seen it not once, but maybe twice when we get to the long session, and be reminded that this is an ongoing process. So, but we will definitely go both directions for federal and state.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, I will,
Well, if you don't ask, you don't receive, so.
correct. Here's the other kick to it. To build a new community center facility in the Merchants Commerce Center area, we had to have that wastewater treatment plant running. We cannot add anything else to our sewer system. So, any other discussion? All right, I have a motion, I have a second, we've discussed it. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Thank you, County Manager, for your updates. I'm gonna put a time limit on you next time.
That's what happens when you give a chairman a pass.
All right, we're gonna go into commissioners' updates. I'm gonna start with Commissioner Emily Truman.
So Commissioner Roundtree and I had the opportunity to meet with Director Smith with DSS, Department of Social Services, recently about a program we hope to bring to you guys shortly. I had my notes 2 seconds ago and then I closed my notebook. I don't know why. previously in, and I did not write the year, correct me, Commissioner Roundtree if I'm wrong, 2021, is that right? The mobile pharmacy had come to Gates County and served, I wrote all kinds of notes here.
It was 2021,
It was 2021?
yes.
Okay.
And projected to
And
serve
served
2025.
840 people in the community, and they have approached again with the discussion. So meeting that we had the other day, hopefully we can move forward with discussing that further and bringing it to the other commissioners and something that we could possibly bring back to Gates County. I thought it was interesting. They said they typically, and only going over this because I don't know if the numbers ever were put out there when it was done in 2021, but they typically bring supplies to serve 1,000 people, 1,000 residents in the area, and for the first time in an area, having 800, and I believe it was 54, but I could be off one or two there, participants in that program was really encouraging. So that's something that we can look forward in the future. I think it was great discussions. As far as the opioid task force, have conversations going with some pastors in the area, trying to make some connections with other communities, other counties surrounding us. We are a small county, and we do have these opioid settlement funds, but we are hopeful that we can join forces with the counties around us and bring someone in potentially to help our area with these funds and with serving the community. So that is something that I'm excited to look forward to having the conversations and hopefully bringing forth. We had originally planned to come with a projection for 2024, 2025 this month to present to the board, and have kind of shifted gears after we had the representative from the state come to our last meeting. She kind of said some things that kind of resonated with us in the size of our area and things that she's seeing in other areas across the state. So we have kind of stepped back, and she said that some other counties have also done this after having her come in, kind of stepping back, looking at the picture again, and then starting fresh a bit. So we are going to be meeting again in April after talking to some hopeful partners and how to move forward, and we look forward to presenting it to you in May instead of March. And then I believe outside of that, our other board that I'm on, the Tri-County Animal Shelter, the county manager and I believe, are invited in April to that meeting, and I'm looking forward to that. I know that they have had some improvements made to their shelter in the past several months. That was exciting. And there was one other thing, and I cannot remember what that was, so I
Rabies.
apologize.
Isn't
The
there
rabies,
rabies?
that's what it was, yes. There is a rabies clinic coming up. Do you have that? Okay. Because I just had rabies in it. There is a rabies clinic coming up Saturday, March 23rd, from 10 to 1, and that is going to be at the Tri-County Animal Shelter, which is 138 Icaria Road in Tyner. It says that it is a cash-only event, no limit on how many animals you bring, dogs and cats only. Dogs must be on a leash, cats must be in a carrier. It's an event that's hosted at the shelter, and the vaccines are $10 each for 1 year vaccine. So the spring rabies clinic, I know that the last one they had was in the fall, was successful. Super simple. If you head up 32, Icaria Road's right there on the left, and you can run into the animal shelter. But this Saturday from 10 to 1, and it's $10 per animal. And that is it, I think.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Truman. We'll go right down the line. Commissioner Hoffa?
Well, this has been my week for meetings. We had the county manager and Commissioner Craddock and I attended the PCG. Of course, we were looking at budgets for all these programs or all these groups that we belong to. PCG has some major concerns about the transfer station, and we are looking at how to tackle that problem one bite of the apple at a time. What is the most crying need, and then going on from there. But, you know, it's a three-county joint effort, and we will have more details later. But it's something that has to be done. If the state comes in and inspects, we have to pass inspection. And the station it's got some age on it.
It does.
And the cement is, there's some failures in the cement and the rebar. that we've got to fix. Today, I had the chance to attend an extension workshop with part of the staff. I'm on the advisory committee for the Gates County. Very interesting with what's going on at Extension and what they are bringing to the table and the ideas that they have for the future of how to bring programs to the county. There was a competition, each of the 14 counties there, and they had a competition, a poster competition, and we all got tickets to, put in which we thought best poster was, and Gates County won for the best poster to illustrate what Extension does in our county. And it's so much. They have the after-school programs, they have 4-H, they have nutrition, cooking, they have the farm programs. It's amazing what they do. And they're looking to do even more. So that they have a good team and they are working hard. This weekend, we have at Sunbury, at T.S. Cooper, the Gates County Historical Society is unveiling a historic marker for T.S. Cooper, who established the first African-American high school in Gates County, and certainly long overdue. And the program is at 3 o'clock. We invite you to attend. And that is all.
And that was Saturday?
Saturday at 3.
Commissioner Roundtree?
Yes, I want to thank my director, Bobby Lowe, for her annual comments. I just want to touch on some of the things that she mentioned. For Trillium, the teleplan is updated and will go live July 1st, 2024. Readiness reviews are starting now. Health Opportunities pilot will go live May 1st, 2024. As far as consolidation update, consolidation has occurred. Trillium is now 46 county LME, which is the acronym for Local Management Entities, MCO, Managed Care Organizations. Trillium have added over 900 in staff. We now have over 1,400 staff. And also Trillium added around 1,200 new providers. As far as my Albemarle Regional Health Services update, ARHS will be expanding the Child Behavioral Health Services. ARHS will meet with the state and provide additional data for child behavioral health. This will expand behavioral health, which is equivalent to phase 1. And also, Commissioner Truman, she touched on my DSS report. Free mobile pharmacy, we're targeting 2025. We're in the planning phases. We're collaborating with DS Director Willie Smith, Albemarle Commission Agent Agency Director Laura Alvarico, North Carolina Med Assist Senior Director Misty Moore, Commissioner Emily Truman, and myself. And this is going to provide over-the-counter drugs for everyone, and also prescribe drugs for those who are not insured and for the elderly population that's on Plan D. Also had the opportunity to attend the legislative breakfast with Dr. Riddick, our chair. Government officials, we met with the food bank of the Albemarle to enhance legislation, policies, operations, and funding for food collection, storage, and distributions for citizens over our region. In attendance was Representative Bill Ward. He was there. Also, our Senator Bobby Hannick was present also, as well as Gates County Commissioner Chair Dr. Althea Riddick and myself, along with other government officials throughout the region.
I believe I was there too.
Excuse me. Excuse me, yes, Commissioner Linda Hoffman. Excuse me. Yes. Also, my future NC update. I met at the Roanoke Chowan Community College with stakeholders in government, education, and in industry. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to engage the citizens in our region to take advantage of education attainment. It's good to have education attainment because that'll make you more viable in the workplace. You have the credentials and whatever necessary moving forward in the future for gainful employment, especially as technology moves forward. Also, I had the opportunity to assist with the Albemarle Commission agency. I want to thank Director Mrs. Laura Alvarico. I want to thank Ms. Carrie Gibson, Gates County Advisory Council Board member, and basically what they do, they provide assistance for the elderly in so many resources, so many areas such as home improvements, things of that nature. And I personally had interaction, and he wanted me to give a special thanks to all the Albemarle Commission and everybody involved, Mr. Theodore Harrell. Albemarle Commission agency installed a handicap ramp for him, and he's greatly appreciative of that. And also, I want to thank our very own Commissioner Chair, Dr. Althea Riddick. She was recognized by North Carolina Rural Center on her champion broadband expansion in northeastern North Carolina. She was recognized during Women's History Month, which is this month of March, and I want to congratulate her on that recognition of her work and her efforts of improving broadband, which is a necessity in this area. And that concludes my updates for tonight.
Thank you, Commissioners. So, reflecting back over the past couple of weeks, I've been doing a lot of reflecting here lately. I had an opportunity to sit down with a citizen that called, it's been a couple of weeks ago. Had questions about E911, and I made a new friend. He shared stories about when he was helped starting the rescue squad up, and brought some insight to how it started, why it started, and what it took to get it started. And of course, the citizen had concerns about our 911 department moving to Perquimans and why. And we had probably a 2.5-hour conversation, like 5 cups of coffee. And I enjoyed it, every minute of it. I learned a lot about Gates County from this person. And I promised him that I would bring a message to the commissioners, because our Merchant Commerce Center came up in conversation. And this person said, get off the stick and get on the ball. You bought it, let's do something with it. So I'm relaying that message, and I think we're on the right track. So 911, I had the opportunity to call 911 Saturday. It won't quite like the instance on 13, but called 911, had a fire down the road, on the side of the road here, and I called and they said, 911, what's your emergency? And I told her, asked me for an address. I'm saying this to remind everybody, I know in an emergency situation it gets a little tight. Your nerves get up. Even me, I've called 911 a lot of times for a fire, but my anxiety got a little raised. About 4 people had called about that same fire, and they said, it's on 137. 137 is about 10 miles long. So she asked me if I could dwindle it down. Did I have an address? It was not an address. So I narrowed it down for one fire department came, and thanks to Mr. Josh Miller and Ed Miller, and State Trooper Williams, we had it put out before the fire department got there, but it was reassuring that when I called 911, somebody answered. and that just citizens stopped to help put out a fire on the side of the road. You know, it was good. I had a lot of good things said about 911. Gatesville Fire Department had a man-down exercise. Everything went well. Dispatch did what they were supposed to. They responded like they were supposed to. So shout out to Perquimans Gates E911. PCG landfill, to echo Commissioner Hoffler, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's well overdue. We're going to have to spend some money on it. We're going to have to. I call it a lot of money, a lot of money. But we're going to work it out. We're going to budget for it, and we're going to get it done.
We're going to do it in stages.
Yep, we're going to do it in stages. We can't afford to do it all at one time, so we're going to do it in stages, and Green Engineering is also helping us with that. Also, PCG, so it was announced a couple months ago that the PCG Landfill Board, we have gone in contract with Dixie Rentals. So Dixie in Sunbury, North Carolina is now hauling for Perquimans, Chowan, and Gates County landfills. So they are hauling our containers and taking them to the landfill. So we have, that's good. That's good.
Employs people here in the county?
Yep, employs people in the county, brings revenue to the county, helps the county out, and budget-wise by far, a long ways. Public Health and Safety Committee, it's going to be postponed this next go around. I think everybody's got all the emails that I sent. Sometimes I have a hard time putting a T in somebody's name, and he don't get the email. But some of the things we're talking about at these meetings, like Mr. Arnold was up here talking about, is the fire hydrants. There's 15 fire hydrants missing or whatever. What's the most important one to get back in service first? And what hydrants from the fire departments aren't working like they should. Signs, I will recommend, and I'm working on a little side project with it, but if everybody does not have numbers on your mailbox or on your house somewhere, if you go to your local post office, there's a little sign in there, your local rescue squad, EMS, for $10 or $15, you can buy a reflective road sign, and it makes all the difference in the world for all our first responders, our sheriff's department. It makes a difference for everybody. So I will suggest everyone does that. Spoke about the fire hydrants. I rode by, I was happy to see all the fire hydrants stacked up. That made my day when I saw that. We commented on the community center a little bit earlier. And I've been thinking about the community center a lot. Because that cold day I went on top of it, I did not have a toboggan. I wish I did. It's in rough shape. And I'm trying to remember back, I had it the other day, it was, I want to say late 70s, early 80s, it was done by a grant. And the roof has been leaking. There's several roofs on top of roofs. Water has infiltrated our walls. The cinder blocks are saturated with water. Saturation with water leads to other things. So I was thinking about how I was raised and how a lot of people were raised that live in Gates County. And I'm not speaking for everybody, but I just sitting back reflecting. I was raised to be satisfied with what I had. You know, it costs. Be satisfied, be thankful for what you have. And I think Gates County has done that long enough. That community center, that's a nice community center. It was really nice at one time. But I don't know what happened. The attention didn't get paid to it that it needed. It might have been lack of funding at the time. I don't know what happened years back. I'm not gonna look, not gonna ask why. It didn't happen, whether we didn't want to raise taxes or whatever it was. But Gates County, it is okay to want more and want better. And that's what I want for this county. Why can't we have a state-of-the-art facility like other counties around us have? The citizens deserve it. They pay taxes. They pay taxes for years. I've talked to some senior people. They go to Franklin, they go to Ahoskie, they go to different places to walk. They pay taxes for 40, 50, some of them 60 years. They deserve a place to go to, chit chat, play basketball, walk around the track, or do whatever they want to. Gates County deserves better. That's what we're going after. That is, I want to say thank you to Scott Sauer, Ms. Darby, Ms. Lowe, that excellent PowerPoints, information. They're going to be on the website where everybody can go and see them. It's facts, factual information. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. We're here for you. We work for you. And please don't forget that. So at this time, I'm going to request a motion to go in closed session NCGS 143.38.11A3, attorney-client privilege to consult with the county attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged, and closed session NCGS 143.318.11A6, personnel to consider the qualification, competency, performance, character, fitness, conditions, employment, or condition of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee, or to hear, investigate, complaint, charge, or grievance by or against an individual public officer or an employee.
Make a motion that we go in closed session.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are on closed session. No action will be taken after closed session. Entertain a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're out of closed session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, John.